This is Mellissa Thomas of Florida National News. Welcome to another episode of our Politics and Power Series. Today we're here with State Senator Victor Torres. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for the invitation, Mellissa. So I always look forward to it.
Thank you. So let's start off straight. We're going to go straight into it. So of course you're up for re-election right now.
Yes, ma'am.
And the burning question for any voter that's thinking about it is why vote for you or why re-elect you?
Why re-elect me?
Yeah.
As a public servant, many of the people who know of me, 40 years, my background is always for the quality of life for a working class who are struggling every day here. Affordable housing, our schools, health care, wages, I've been a fighter ever since I've been in the legislature on the $15 minimum wage, and I will never stop fighting for that and for Medicaid expansion. And we've gone into fight for affordable housing, and I feel that re-election for me means another 4 years to fight for the community, for the everyday citizen that has no voice in our community. I just looked at we need to people aware of how important elections are. It's not just the president.
Right.
It's local here in the state, how we can elect people who are going to do the job, not just say they're going to do the job.
Talk about any bills that you've got in the works right now or that you've recently passed in the past year.
Well, we as far as passing bills or amendments, it's been a difficult time to, like I said, having committees hear our bills. We'll look forward to, again, sponsoring for affordable housing, allocation funding is one of our main goals. We're looking at possibly refiling on the school buses where the arm comes out, filing a bill to prevent these drivers who carelessly drive by our children who are getting off the buses. There's some other ones on the horizon until we send to drafting, and we're waiting for the response. But right now, it's just a question of seeing what's going on currently. There has been issues with people in their jobs who speak Spanish, who have been told you speak English, you don't speak Spanish. So the population here in Osceola has increased more than 50% with the Hispanics, influx of Hispanic, Puerto Ricans in particular that come here. But as serving 2 counties, I have things that are going on over there, staying in tune with the housing situation in Orange County that Mayor Demings is working on, and also Mayor Dyer. Transportation, seeing about dedicated funding for mass transit here in Central Florida. Those are things that affect the everyday citizen. Our hospitals, another source of, we need to help the hospitals maintain, have nurses, have doctors, and the care that our constituents need.
In recent conversations, not only at the state level, we've heard it at the county level and the city level, but Florida's bringing in, or Central Florida is bringing like 1,500 people per week. And that's a huge contributor to the housing crisis as well.
Yeah.
So how do you address that at the state level? How do you deal with not only the housing situation, but all of the consequences of that kind of explosive population growth? You mentioned adding more portables with the schools, but not only that, but how do you handle the transportation issues that come with that? It's an arena where you have all these different services that need to be funded, fully funded. You need to have dedicated funding for mass transit. You have links, you have Sunrail,
And pretty soon Sunrail's going to be falling on our lap, because remember, there was only in 2 more years, they're going to be, the counties are going to be responsible for subsidizing Sunrail. The idea of getting people the affordable housing, our schools, how do you build our schools? They keep building our schools horizontally. In yesterday's delegation, I said, you need to build vertically, because you can build vertically and you could add more classrooms. You're going this way, you're just taking up space, but you're not really providing enough room. And then before you know it, your school is overpopulated. You have to buy portables, which to me, portables with inclement weather, strong winds, lightning. Do you want your kids running from portable into the main building? I don't think so. The opportunity for health care for those who are coming in here, as well as those who are here already, is another issue. Most businesses can't afford to provide enough health care for their workers and their families, and their workers sometimes can't afford to pay for health care for their families, because we don't have Medicaid expansion here. We don't provide that. Wages, how do we help our businesses so they can give people good wages here? There's many issues. And I know the mayor had talked about it, Jerry Demings, about the amount of people coming in per week, and what opportunities do they have moving in here? Because mind you, some people who are professionals, they already have something planned, pre-planned when they come in here.
Right.
But the average person might say, I've had it living up north in the cold weather, in the snow, in the blizzards and all this. I'm moving to Florida. And we'll find some place to stay, we'll find some place to work, and we'll, they have, people look at the theme parks here for a source of getting a job. It's okay, but maybe it's not the kind of job you were trained to do.
Right.
You came with a skill, but you couldn't find that job opportunity here. We have apprenticeship programs through labor, who have excellent apprenticeship programs. We have Career Source, which is how you looking for a job. I've asked Career Source to have labor at the table, so this way when people walk in, men and women have the opportunity. You want to be an electrician, you want to be a carpenter, you want to be an iron worker, you want to be a painter. The opportunities is here. And there's such a need for skilled labor here in the whole state of Florida. It's incredible. People don't realize the opportunities here. The problem here is pay.
Right.
Pay. What you make as an electrician in New York or somewhere else is far less over here. But then again, you don't pay as much in taxes like you do in New York compared to here.
What are some deal breakers for you when you're dealing with voting for bills?
Well, deal breakers, I don't know. To me, it's what we'll do for the community. Can you justify it? Can you feel that this is the right support? Would I support this? Will my constituents appreciate this? And I come from labor, and I look at the aspect of the working community who are in the unions, the labor. This will benefit them as well, So, but a lot of times, you get to the point where you say, no, you might be the only no vote, and that's happened to me.
Okay.
And everybody says, "You voted no?" And I says, "Yeah, I didn't like it. I felt that it wasn't going to do any good for the community." So that's where I stand, because I have to let them know how I voted. And if somebody says, "Why did you vote?" I felt this, and this of this bill. That's why I voted no. You know, some people, you give them a break. No, sometimes you give a person a break, or you give a bill a break, and it turns out it's a really bad bill, and then you're gonna come back and say, "Hey, Torres, you voted for that bill," and you go like, "Yeah, and why did you vote for such a bad bill?" Right.
Right. I'd like to go back a little. So you mentioned you're from labor. Also, you're a military veteran. Kind of talk about how those things inform the different policy decisions that you make in your day-to-day operation.
Well, when I look at some of these issues on arming teachers, let's go for that. I was a veteran. I served in the Marine Corps, and I retired cop from New York Transit Police, 20 years and 29 days, a retired detective. And I look at arming our teachers in our schools. So we understand the consequences, what happened in the school and Parkland shooting, but this has been happening throughout the country as a result of weapons, of assault weapons that have they shouldn't be out in the streets, first of all. They shouldn't be sold. But when you sit there and you're hearing a bill and we're trying to put amendments to make the bill better on just make it police, make it, those who have the training, those who qualify for this is their background. But they said, no, we don't want to hear your amendments. We feel that arming teachers will answer, how many guns are you going to put in the school? Are we going to put a gun on every floor in the school? I mean, the idea of a teacher teaching a class and responding to a shooter on campus, does he or she leave her kids, her students, to run out the classroom to find out who the shooter is? Remember that police will be responding. Police are in uniform. They don't know you from Adam. I don't care what color you are. Police are, in their mind, is they're going into an active shooting scene. So they're looking to see who's the person with the gun. And if you turn out to be the person with the gun, even though you have good intentions because you're an armed teacher, you might be shot. You might be killed. And the second thing about this is, you're really not trained in law enforcement. You've only had 132 hours, or maybe now they say 144 hours, whatever. I did it. You have probation. You went a year out in the streets. You know the law. You know what the consequences are. If you discharge a weapon, you cannot take that bullet back. Once it's gone, it's gone. And you are accountable for that. So my thing is, you better be 100% right. Not 90%, not 85%, 100% right. Because somebody's life depends on what you've done and what kind of action you've taken. What happened in Parkland was sad because these kids depended on him. And he failed them. As big as he was, and all the 30 years or whatever he had on the force, he failed them. He failed those parents. That's the sad part.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, I want to get your opinion on something. The current conversation between, Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, All Lives Matter. As someone who has been in law enforcement and given your stance on gun safety, is it possible to have a viewpoint that involves all the perspectives and not be so polarized? Is it possible to have a perspective that is moderate and measured, that balances the perspectives out? Is the polarization necessary?
Well, It's gonna be there no matter what. My look on it was my 20 years and 29 days was the training that I received in law enforcement. It was a constant in training, in service, what they call the transit police, to update you, get to know the laws, keep you informed. Sensitivity training, meaning working with the community, learning to assimilate with the community. I worked in Harlem for many years, and you get to know, and you walk around, how you're doing, and in every neighborhood, you always had, the quality of people who were everyday people who were working just like you were. You were a cop, but they were going to work. They rode the trains. They needed assistance, and you felt that you were part of the community when you were assigned to that area, and you treated people with respect. When you lose respect of the community you work in, you have no business working in there. You have no business saying that you're going to protect their lives when you really, in your heart, you don't believe that. You got to believe in what you're doing. You got to believe it. I worked in off of 145th and St. Nicholas. So I knew where I was working every day. I knew my 8 hours, whatever it was, this was working in the community. I knew what I had to do. Good or bad, I had to always evaluate and say, please, Lord, let this be a good day today so I can get home quick, And by the way, for your viewers out there, in my 20 years and 29 days, I never discharged my weapon.
Wow.
So, and I went uniform, anti-crime, detective. I never discharged my weapon, never. The only time I went was what they call in-service training for the range, the gun range, which you have to qualify with your gun every year. And that was the only time. And I responded to all the situations, man with a gun, shots fired, robbery in progress, anything. But I never discharged my weapon. So I was blessed. I was lucky. And I'm thankful today that I can say that and say, hey, it's something that I'm proud to say,
Briefly, previously you talked about, family, of course, your daughter Amy. Kind of talk about how significant it is for you to be able to serve alongside her, her in the House and you in the Senate. Like how meaningful is that for you to be able to do that?
That's such a blessing and an honor. You don't know. I mean, you look at it and you go like, from where we came from, up in the Bronx, and to today, I look at her and I remember, as a young teenager, young girl, and all the things that she has done and how she grown up as a mom, taking care of her kids, her job, her attitude. She multitasks. I mean, I look at my wife and I was like, well, I know where she gets it from. But it's Carmen, my wife, always encourages us. And as a father and daughter, naturally I look out for her, my idea, and she looks out for me. She comes over to my Senate side quite often, sits in there, and my staff, and they say, Senator, I think she wants to move in to the Senate side. She's gonna prime you, So I said, yeah, she'll have her turn. She'll have her turn. The young women of this country, they are so vibrant, so intelligent, they know how to move on issues, and that's what happened in the Congress. I mean, these young women have stepped up. They've said, enough is enough. We need to move on issues. We need to make the quality of life for every citizen out there. You see, they voted for minimum wage,
right,
from $7.25 to $15. Politics, I never I worked on the many campaigns. I helped many candidates from New York to here. Knocked on doors. In Ocala, I used to drive miles to one voter to knock on their door. Please go out and vote. You know, and yeah, it was a different atmosphere. And I've done it so long that finally, when the opportunity came, my daughter said, "Well, you should run in 2012," and Amy ran in 2010.
Right.
So it was just. I said, all right, let me try it. And as a public servant, I said, that's all I can offer the folks. It's me.
Right.
I don't have a silver spoon. I came from the working class. So I go, yeah, this is where I'm at. So I speak to what I feel passionate. My staff sometimes, Senator, sometimes you gotta cool down, you know, because some people, and I said, you know what? I'm not here because I'm cooled down. I'm here because of who I am. And people may not like what I say, but I hear what they have to say, and they have to hear what I have to say. I respect that. You know, we might have a difference of opinion, but I think you need to know where I stand and how I feel about things.
Well, definitely thank you so much for your time. I know we could definitely talk for much longer. It's always a pleasure.
No, my pleasure. My
Absolutely.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.